Hey, what's up everybody? Today we are working on replacing a U-joint. So in the front of my Jeep here, we have an issue where the front joint has decided to exit chat. And I'll get you guys some good pictures of that before I pull it out. In this circumstance, the axle seems to be fine on both sides, so I should be able to just swap in a new U-joint and be good to go. So I'll go ahead and start tearing this thing apart, and we will see what it takes to get it back together. First things first, I'm gonna bust loose this 36 millimeter axle nut. Came right off. It doesn't always work that way. I'm going to remove the ABS sensor wire from in the way so I can pull this brake caliper off. You need a 21 millimeter socket to remove the caliper. I got that guy right here. Let's see how easy this thing works. I might need to go get a breaker bar. We'll get this thing moved one way or another. Come on, there we go. There we go. That's something. Alright, we'll get both of these broken loose and I'll get back on the ratchet. Well, that was convenient. Man, it's a lot less convenient when you have the disc still attached. What am I gonna do with this? Honestly, that's just fine. Because next, I need to pull this hub out. And really nothing else matters on the rest of that. I'm going to disconnect this ABS sensor, which is an Allen. And it works fine. Do that. Okay. Well, now let's disconnect the rest of that. So these are the multi-point bolts in the back here. Usually a 13 mil with the right setup will work. In this case, I have axle in the way, and it chewed up a little bit of the bolt on the bottom here, which is nice. So I might need to change my tune on some of this. I might want to heat these up, it looks like. Oh, never mind. That went. Hey, I'll take that. So if yours aren't chewed up, that 13 will fit just fine. I'll do some filing on these and see if I can't get them done and back up right, just so I don't have to buy new hub bolts. And then you can see that's where the axle moved enough and impacted the actual head of the bolt, which I was able to get past, which is fine. So should have enough to still be viable in the future. Move you guys over here. Wish me luck. And this one breaks free. And it did not. Okay. So I'm going to put a little bit of heat on these and see if that doesn't make things a little bit easier. I decided I'll throw a little WD just to see if it won't help separate things here in a minute. We really did a number on that top one. Hang out with me while I struggle. Video editor and producer Colin will probably give you a time lapse for this so that you don't have to just watch me be sad for very long. And so I should be able to get this thing to move. I'm gonna try and just, oh yeah. It moved just fine. That was great. All it took was getting it hooked up. Now on to the next part. This next part is always goofy because sometimes these hubs pop right off and sometimes they don't. So on a regular basis, you have to really get after them and see if you can't get them to come loose. I have all the bolts out. Nothing's in the way. I threw a little bit of WD-40 on the top here just to see if it would help. I was going to work my way up in hammer size, but I've decided not to. I'm just going to get the big one right out the gate. That moved. Now, should be able to get the rest of this out of here. Not too difficultly. All right. Now that that's out of the way, we can get into figuring out what's next. All right, so what we're gonna do next is I'm gonna pull this whole axle shaft out and hope that it's not got a whole bunch of other issues that I don't know about. You can see that U-joint is toast. And I gotta line this up so that it can fit out correctly. So I'm gonna put you guys back on the tripod and see if I can't get that thing out of there with two hands. I'm gonna keep hitting this thing with a hammer until it goes into place. And then we'll get this thing out of here and see what we can see. All right. There we go. Now we got it out. Okay. So we can see a lot of garbage in that place. But the axle shaft itself looks pretty good until you get to this side. This is what went wrong. So it looks like, oh, booger. Might not be able to reuse this one because that ear died pretty excitingly. So what I'm going to do next is get the rest of this apart, make sure that the short shaft is still good, and then see what I need to do about this long shaft and whether or not it's savable. Spoiler alert, it doesn't look like it's savable. So this is a trick I saw recently on the internet, and it's essentially a game of I hope it works because it looked really cool. But basically you get these things out by a good strike of the hammer after you've pulled these pins out. So I'm gonna get those pins out, we're gonna give it a strike or two and see what you do. I like to use a good hook. Just pry, but man, these ones are angry. I think they've been in one spot for a long time. There we go. So these clips are good to keep because your new setup may or may not come with them. Mine seems like it did, but who knows about next time, or if you're in the middle of BFE, if you're gonna have a part store that has those clips, I like to have a couple extra on hand, just in case. This pick is bending and not cutting it, so I'm gonna get a screwdriver. Generally, these pins shouldn't need a hammer. So let's dig into that one. Okay. So hypothetically, I don't know if this is gonna work or not, but that worked great. Wow. That is surprising how easy that went. Okay, we're gonna try it again on the other side. See if she'll do the same thing. I've got a little bit of grease in my eye, but that's okay. It's moving, which is the important part. The other cap off. Oh, that thing was toast. Needle bearings everywhere. Now, just get this thing out of here. Okay, short shaft looks savable. The long boy does not. So I'm gonna get it the rest of the way out of here and just kind of assess what she looks like. I think we do have to get this other piece out, which I will do using the wrong tool for the job. Okay, well that came out anyway. That helped. So this U-joint failed, but we'll see what we can do. Let's see if this is otherwise savable. I'm starting to fear that it is not, but you don't know until you try. That cap is out. So we had one cap that looked pretty good, but as we can see here, I'm going to tap it in like so and just see what happens, because I don't think that this bad mamma jam is round anymore, which we can see now that I've tapped a cap into it right here. So that is kind of our biggest issue right now. I can put a new U-joint in it and probably get by. I mean, it's seated pretty stoutly, but I don't know that I trust that to last very long. I'm gonna do it because I don't have any other axles right now to replace this one with. It'll take a while to order one, and I don't want to wait forever to get back out there and start playing again. So I think what I am going to do is try and tap that strap back a little bit around that U-joint that's not supposed to be there, that is there right now, and then see if I can't put it back together and hope for the best. I mean, I've seen worse. definitely done worse. What do you think, boys? Do we just send it? I'm gonna file this down just a little bit. Some of the sharp edges off of it. And then we're just gonna hope for the best. Expect the worst. I guess a half round file. Okay, do I think this is gonna last forever? No. Will it get me through until I can get a new axle ordered up and ready for the Rubicon? Yes. Then will I have this as a spare that I can bring with me to the Rubicon? Yes. Is that a good thing? Could be. All right. Here is the new U-joint. Here are the new clips. The game is press your caps on without losing needle bearings. Generally what I like to do is I like to start on the smaller portion just so that it's easier to wield. In this case, because I don't feel confident in the larger portion working, I'm going to start there instead. These should be exactly the same on all four sides, and it is, and it's just an updated version of what I already had from the looks of it. Yeah. So we'll get this thing set up. We'll do our best to get it together. A lot of folks use like a real nice press for this. I would sure love to do that. What I have, though, is a vise. And I think that that will do well enough for now. So what I like to do is get it so that I'm engaged in both sets of needle bearings already before I start pressing on the caps. Essentially, this is going to get everything close enough that I can use another tool to tap-taparoo everything back in far enough to be correct. Well, so far everything's going together pretty darn smoothly. I'm grateful of that. Okay, now I'm going to put my new pin on. Once the pin is on, I can put some pressure on this side so that I can get into the cavity for the pin there. You can do it all kinds of ways. I will try and just tap-taparoo it. If that doesn't seem to work, which it seems to be working so far, then we'll go from there. Say whatever you want. I know I'm doing it wrong. Wrong is in the eye of the beholder. I'm holding the bees. So, also, like I said, this is going to end up just being a spare anyway, because it only has to last as long as it wants to. At this point, I have had worse looking axles hold up just fine. So we're gonna hope that this is the same situation, that these can be bad and hold up just fine. So next, I'm going to do the same thing for the short side. Slide it in. Get these things attached. Put on one of these caps, retaining pins, doohickeys. Cap retaining pin doohickeys is 100% the right term. I don't care who you are. If you do things the way that I do them, a lot of the time they're good enough, but often they're not. So take that with a grain of salt. Just like you would a tequila shooter. Now, I have hypothetically functional axle shaft that'll last for a certain amount of time. You can see it does all the things. It is not significantly out of round. We're gonna go slap that bad Larry home. I hope for the best. If you're not sure or you're not haven't been around here long, I work off of the circumstances that almost always good enough is good enough. And that's what we're doing today. Installation is just the reverse of removal. So I'm going to slide all this stuff back together. And we will hope for the best. The goal is to have the Jeep back on the road in time to go pick up my kiddo. So I'm going to quit filming. I'm going to go ahead and slap this all back together. And I'll let you know in the car how it all went. All right, got everything back together, and now we're just gonna get the tire back on. Get these goofy center caps, which are like kind of hub-centric, I don't know. Okay, got that on there. Now we'll get our lug nuts back on, and we'll see how she looks. I'm confident it'll be fine for a while. And that's, like I said, that's all I need right now. We gotta get it good enough that it'll stay together until I get another axle shaft ordered. These are OEM, if not 160,000 mile original axle shafts. So it's possible that these have been around for a while. And I got one more thing to do. I'm jumping the gun here. I almost forgot to put the axle nut back on. Wow. I don't know if anybody's ever done this before, but I think that's an important step. Luckily, I was only one away from having it. Woo. Man, that could have been bad. One more just for Chesty. Now I can get this back on. This was a semi-instructional, know how I do it kind of thing. But there are much better resources for doing these kinds of things right. I'll be the first to admit that what I like to do and the most correct way to do things doesn't always line up. I'm very much a get it done, get it back on the road, we'll figure it out from there sort of guy. But so far that's done me pretty okay. If you have questions, leave them in the comments. Please check out our podcast, the Campfire Passport Podcast, and give us a like or a follow or a subscription if you got the gumption to. Otherwise, you just want to follow along in the background and watch the videos, that's cool too. Thanks for watching. I'm Mike, and I think that this has been good enough.